The transfer portal will be opening on Friday. That means big news is coming for the Oklahoma Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Rougiette. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now's the time. Head to rougiette.com/lockedoncollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rougiette ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready. He's Jay Smith of Unfair Sports. I'm John Williams of Sooners Wire. And on today's show, we're going to talk about the transfer portal because on Friday, we've got the official opening of the transfer portal. Even though we've had players that have made their intentions known, Oklahoma can start actually getting commitments once the portal opens. We're going to talk positions where Oklahoma is solid. They're good to go. They don't need to spend a whole lot of time focusing in that area. We'll talk about some players to watch for the Oklahoma Sooners and maybe even some players to watch that might even still be on the way out the door. But let's start with some top priorities, Jay, because I think that's a discussion that's still ongoing as we evaluate the roster from 2025 and the look ahead as well. Where's an area you feel like Oklahoma, Jim Nagy, Brent Venables may need to spend their most time in the portal this offseason?
Yeah, so and don't believe that us saying what we consider priority means the players in front of them aren't the ones that we like, right? Our entire goal and purpose here is to better evaluate the roster and understand what we're going to need to go forward if we really want to make a push for 2026. We know that this past season, the defense gave us something that truly was a championship caliber type of play. We just need a healthier offense in order to add to that. So your best bet now is to start really considering players that could really come in and be impactful if something happened to either of these starters. So I wanted to make sure I laid that foundation first. That those people are going to believe, oh, you think this player sucks? No,
Nope.
We're not saying anybody sucks. What we're saying is we're looking at it as these are certain positions we're going to need to add probably some help. So starting off, honestly, I think one of the biggest priorities is probably going to be running back. Having two running backs that end up getting beat up, this is the SEC. It has a tendency of doing that sometimes. You want to make sure you have at least a third that you can rely on. Now, if you bring in your true freshmen like Jonathan Hatton as well as Zeppin Walker, probably can do it with them. They may be at the level or caliber or ready to play. It just depends on how their bodies are. Now, I think Hatton could be, but you never know. But it would be good to go grab another portal running back, someone that is possibly proven that could go out there and play. I think that most of your priorities are going to be on the offensive side of the ball right now. Probably a running back. And I'd say you probably want one more wide receiver that can be a game breaker or a guy that can be a focal point as you're getting and building like Giovanni Gibson up, Zion Kearney up, Jermichael Carter up, while you're building those guys up. And if you get Sategna back, John, that makes it so much easier. But I'd say you probably want one more wide receiver to go with one more running back.
Yeah, the Sategna decision is kind of going to be the biggest domino that falls in all of this wide receiver discussion, because if he's back, then I think you're good to go. I think you could go with him and then figure out the rest of it with your guys on the outside, because you've got some talented young receivers. They haven't stepped into roles yet, but the talent is there. They've shown at different times, like Zion Kearney in the Armed Forces Bowl, right? He showed his ability to make plays. Now, did he have a drop? Yeah, he did. But you've got some talent there that you can work with, that you can build upon. If you want to go find somebody that has some experience to provide a little bit more veteranness to the wide receiver position, that's fine. But I think with Sategna, that helps you build out the rest of the depth chart a whole lot easier than if you don't have him. If you don't have him, then yeah, wide receiver becomes a key priority, because you need to have somebody that has a little bit of proven production. Running back, I think you're right on here. It's not that we don't think the world of Xavier Robinson and Torrey Blaylock and Jonathan Hatton and Zeppin Walker or Gabe Sawchuk. Those are really solid players. It's you can't go through 2026 the same way you did 2025, where you're just hoping to make it through the season at the position. There have been so many injuries and the guys played so banged up throughout the year that you don't really know how effective your running game could have been if those guys were healthy or if those guys were a little bit more comfortable running the football. They played so banged up all year, man. They played like warriors. Like, shout out to those guys for real. But finding somebody with some durability, some experience, I think could go a long way in helping solidify the position. I think another area that might go a little overlooked because, again, two guys that we really like on the offensive side of the ball that are going to be coming back is offensive tackle. You have two guys as Ryan Fauché and Michael Fazuzzi that played a lot as true freshmen that we expect will probably be your bookend tackles for 2026. But we know that this coaching staff likes some competitive depth, Jay, and they might want to throw somebody in the mix that has some position flexibility, that can play tackle, can play guard, and push Ryan Fauché, maybe push a Heath Ozida for a starting spot and see what they might be able to do with that offensive line.
Yeah, Isaiah Dent was one that I was hoping was going to end up being your swing tackle that was going to be able to play both sides of the ball and come in a good reserve cleanup area. But at the same time, for a player like him and what talent he has, especially with his size and his ability to move, is the question was, would he ever get an opportunity to actually start? And that's kind of where you start looking at the tea leaves for some of these players. Some players realize that, all right, I'm probably never going to get an opportunity to start, but I want to, and the NFL is not in my dreams. But at the same time, I still want to play at the highest level and still get the opportunity. So you're going to need to find some solid backups that want to come push, like you said, push those two to where they could potentially take their spots. I mean, truth be told, Michael walking in and kind of, pushing Troy Everett and making him get better. Then unfortunately Troy gets hurt and Michael takes the spot. He's there. So yeah, you want to find another set of swings. I'm wondering what Buklinko does. He's on my list of potential departures just because he's a senior. He's going to be at the point where he may want to go somewhere and try to start, or he may say, I'm going to see if I can push one of these young dudes out the way and take their starting spot, and we rotate back and forth. Like, you want to have a couple of players in depth. That was the one thing that was good about the offensive line this year, is that's why I wasn't as concerned. You had a lot of options where you felt comfortable when your second strings came in, and it looked kind of fine. Your biggest problem was the run blocking just wasn't as effective as you hoped. So I know that that's going to be something that the Sooners definitely want to push for. I know that they want to have a punishing run game and get back to having that. It's going to take some work, unfortunately. You got to have a combination of the holes have to be there and the running backs have to hit them. And we saw a combination of moments where the holes were there, the running backs missed them, or the hole wasn't there and the running back made something out of nothing. And then you also saw moments where the hole was there and the running back hit it and they got a whole bunch of big runs. So it wasn't like it was a complete failure. You had 100-yard rushing games from your running backs whenever they were healthy. The hope is that you can get more of those. The schedule lightens up next season. So, I mean, besides Michigan traveling to Ann Arbor, you got to play against Kyle Whittingham's team, who always puts together a punishing squad.
Yeah.
The focal point now for you and this team is going to be, we need to just be a movement at the line. And hopefully we can get out of the RPO as much and just go straight run and just push people around. But I think we can do that, especially once we get a lot healthier. So, yeah, I think a swing tackle, a swing guard, you're going to need two of them. You probably need about four of them, especially losing Sexton. My anticipation is still Logan Howland possibly could go, even though I think he loves it here. I hope he doesn't, but I can expect him to, because you got to look at the tea leaves when it comes to this, John, and everybody else. It's some of these kids really want to play. They just want to see the opportunity to play. And if we don't really see a path, that could be the struggle. We probably could talk about that. That'll make it even easier too, especially when we go through these players to watch.
Yeah, I think another couple positions we need to talk about here coming up next, linebacker and tight end. I know a lot of our Locked On Sooners everydayers are screaming at us right now, like, why aren't you talking linebacker, tight end? So let's do that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Let's talk about something most men don't bring up, but absolutely should. Stress from work, money, life, it doesn't just switch off at night or when the moment is right. And when it shows up at the worst possible time, Rouge Get Ready is designed to help you take back control. Rouge Get Ready is a next-generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. Rouge Get Ready combines 3 clinically proven ingredients in one mint that dissolves under your tongue so it absorbs fast. The science behind Rouge Get Ready stands out. 3 clinically proven ingredients in one formula designed for both mental and physical readiness. You can connect with a board-certified doctor online, and everything ships discreetly to your door. So no embarrassment, no awkward conversations, no meeting the mailman at the door. You don't got to worry about any of that. And if you've been thinking about taking the next step, now's the time. Head to rougiet.com/lockedoncollege. That's RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rouge Get Ready. Feel present. Feel confident. Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. We're going to be talking transfer portal all week long as the Oklahoma Sooners get ready for college free agency that opens on January 2nd. We'll have some discussions about the players that they're targeting, players that they add as some of that news and buzz comes out. Jay, so we talked offensive tackle. We've talked wide receiver. Let's talk linebacker. Let's talk tight end, because especially on the offensive side of the ball, we got a big season out of Jaren Kanak, but man, that was lightning in a bottle. We can't expect necessarily to go into the spring with really no idea of who's going to be the starting tight end for this team. You've got some young options that I think are intriguing, but man, I think they got to go find somebody that's got some proven SEC snaps. Even if the wide receiver or the receiving production is not there, finding somebody that can straight up block, give me that guy.
Yeah, that's what you're going to need. We need some run blocking. And I know that Oklahoma, I've been seeing it posted on socials, Oklahoma is kind of linked to that Florida tight end. Was it Hayden Hansen is one that everyone's looking at, the big 6'7" guy, and he can block. I've actually looked at his PFF grades. He actually looks like he has the capabilities of being someone that has something we're looking for. But yeah, tight end's going to be interesting because I'm trying to think young talent besides Trinae Washington. Who do we have? If I'm correct, the other guys are all going to be redshirt seniors. So we're kind of running out of bodies. It feels like you lost Caden Helms. Kate McIntyre should be a redshirt junior coming into this year. And health wise, we haven't seen him. I'm actually curious to see if he's here next year as well. He's one that if he could get healthy, I've always thought that he would be a fun one because he's one that could also play tight end, like Trinae Washington is one that could play also edge. And he could be really good at edge. He has the build and the body for it, and he's a ginormous human being. So he would be a very intriguing edge to play. Maybe they convert CJ Nixon back over to tight end and let him play. He's a former basketball player. I guess you could say an undersized big, which is a very common build for a tight end, especially in the NFL. They're the ones that seem to be seeing some success. They come in and play football for like a year, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, they're like all pro. It's like, how does that? But it's mainly because they're so used to boxing people out. They're good at blocking. They're good at catching because they, play in the post. So, yeah, the tight end feels like if there's a room that they're going to go the most ham on in the portal for the second year in a row, it's probably going to be tight end. And we just got to figure that bad boy out, man.
Well, and to me, like, if Hayden Hansen's that guy that you're going to put all your chips in on, to me, that makes sense because he's a guy with 1,800 snaps in the SEC.
A lot.
934 run blocking snaps. Like, that's a guy that I can say, okay, you come in, you be our tight end one, and then we let our Trinae Washington be tight end two, or Cade McIntyre be tight end two. The thing with McIntyre, man, the talent is there. He's an athlete. He just can't stay healthy. And it's hard to rely upon that if you can't stay healthy. That's the Caden Helms issue, the Jacob Sexton issue, the Jake Taylor issue. It's not that the talent's not there. It's just you can't build upon it if you can't stay healthy. So Hayden Hansen makes a lot of sense. I think that is one that you get him for 1 year, and then you allow your young guys to develop, your Trinae Washingtons, your Tyler Ruxers, I mean, Ryder Mix is probably going to have that medical red shirt this year where he's going to sit out and just develop and get healthy. But there's something to be said for, hey, this is our guy. He's our tight end one. He's got enough snaps under his belt. He's definitely going to block his tail off. And we can get something in the receiving game, even if it's not going to be 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. He can do something for you as a pass catcher. Even in Florida's offense, where it was cheeks all season long. I mean, this is a guy that he had like 30 receptions for Florida this year, and 2 touchdowns. He had 7 catches in the LSU game. So like not the best receiving target, but he was 3rd in Florida's offense in receiving yards. So
yeah,
there's something to be said there. At linebacker, I think this is going to be one of those, again, like wide receiver with the Isaiah Sategna decision. What happens with Kip Lewis will determine how deep they have to go into the transfer portal market. We know that they're going to, because this is a team that's going to lose Kobe McKenzie. They could lose Owen Heineke, and you can't bank on the NCAA doing the right thing and giving Heineke another year of eligibility. So even with Kip Lewis coming back, they'll probably still look to add somebody that could be part of that linebacker rotation. If Kip Lewis is gone, it becomes a pretty significant need, Jay.
Yeah, it is. And that's where I am on the train of Kip announces this in the next week or 2 that he's going to return. I actually think that I anticipate the goal that this staff has is that they want them to say their intentions by the time the portal opens so they can focus on who they need to add into the room. And granted, the way that this staff has always worked, a lot of the players respect that. They respect the fact that they want to build around them, especially if they're going to make a return. So I do see Kip saying he's going to come back this week. I can even see Sategna, because I understand that they're still going to be looking at, the NFL, looking at what options are there. The bigger thing with the NFL is going to be Black Monday, which is going to be quote unquote next Monday. That's when the football coaches get fired. And that's when you're going to see a lot more staff changes again. Some schools don't not need to get comfortable right now, because as soon as Black Monday hits, you're going to be hearing about certain coaches being the focal point of getting jobs. And there's a lot of jobs that's going to be open that some coaches are going to be intrigued about. So with that being said, when we find out what Kip's going to do, I think that's going to help with the strategy around it. Even though I do believe, John, we're probably in the best position, one of the best positions out there compared to a lot of the competition, having a front office staff that's been doing this scouting this entire time in preparation for January 2nd. So to me, by Friday, you might start seeing signatures flying across the board and seeing people already, getting in position to join the team. So I know that Nagy and all of that staff have been working their butts off on grinding that tape and understanding what players make the most sense. Linebacker is very interesting, though, because if you look at it this way, if you get Kip to come back, as you mentioned, we're not going to get Owen Heineke. I have zero reliance on the NCAA because I can't find anything around this lacrosse red shirt situation. If they even allow that stuff there, it just does not look right. 3 games, and you would think that 3 games is, because I know they play more than 12. So you would think 3 games will be a great number to say, oh yeah, you can redshirt, you'll be fine. But they ain't got nothing in there to really help this kid out. So NCAA is not going to do right by him. So let's just go ahead and say he's not there. Kip comes back. You got Nesta as well as Marcus James, and you're bringing in some additional young linebackers, which we loaded up on, which is a good idea. You're going to probably need at least 1, if not 2, starting caliber players, or at least 1 and a cheetah type player to rotate with Reggie Powers, because Powers is going to be your most likely starting cheetah, or the cheetah with the most snaps is most likely going to be him. You're going to need to add 1 more freakish guy to go with, unless you get Taylor Heim to add an additional 20 pounds. You're going to need 1 more. That's going to be tough to find someone with the freakish size, speed, and movement of a KD5 or any other ones to be that impactful. So I'm expecting at least 2. You might get a 3rd just to see. But the good thing about this, and this is kind of where this conversation goes, John, best is, don't get it twisted. This staff does love their recruits. Mm-hmm. So it's probably going to be a 1-year, 2-year rental. Someone that you can hopefully bring in, play a little bit, and get your young players some snaps, which I love the most.
Well, and the thing that they've got going for them as well is just throw on Oklahoma's linebacker tape for any of these guys, and they're going to have a lot of fun watching it because Kendall Daniels, Owen Heineke, Kip Lewis, Samuel Masigo, Kobe McKenzie, Owen Heineke, they just all balled out this year and just flying around the football. Brent Venables' defense is one that's a fun one for linebackers. Let's look at a few players that are intriguing and could be intriguing for Oklahoma to target. Let's talk about some positions where Oklahoma's set. They don't need to worry about it going into the portal. We'll do that coming up here on Locked On Sooners.
Fridays always feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel's making them even better. Every Friday night, before game tip-off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. I know, right? NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited-time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action actually starts. And so Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have now been appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. So you open the app during the happy hour, and it gives you something new every single time. Boost bonuses. There's always a surprise or two in there for you to check out. And so the timing is perfect. Right before the games, right before the weekend starts, you can get into the action and play. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what drops during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Hey, go check out the Everydayer Club as well. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer club and look for Locked On Sooners. You can get ad-free audio, and you can join a members-only Discord where you can chat with guys like Jay and I and the rest of the hosts on the Locked On network, as well as all the everydayers. So you like to get into good football discussions and you're kind of tired of the way social media works? There's some great football discussions happening in the Locked On Discord server as well. So, Jay, Caleb Hawkins, the UNT running back that was a true freshman, was outstanding last year, is in the transfer portal. We talked running back. That's a name that's very intriguing. Listen, I know Oklahoma State's going to be in the mix for all of those UNT transfers just because of the coaching hire, but Oklahoma should certainly throw their hat in the ring.
Yeah, okay, prep agenda right there. It's he from Shawnee. And my favorite thing is whenever an Oklahoma kid, very much under recruited, goes somewhere and they go cook, and you're like, why didn't we look at him? I mean, y'all would have yelled at us if we would have said a unstarred player was picked up by Oklahoma. Heck, y'all yell at us now when we talk about recruits that aren't 5-star. So let's not pretend like we don't. Now, some of you, not saying everybody, some of you do recognize that we do look for those players that are potentially, prospective or have very high, upside. So let's just, want to make sure we clarify all of that. But I think he is one that is very intriguing for Oklahoma to look at. Like you said, he, the Eric Morris connection with Oklahoma State, where they're bringing in that entire coaching staff, and so that's going to be a toughie to try to beat out. But, I mean, if he may look at it and say, I want to play in the SEC. I've always wanted to play in the SEC, and the opportunity's there. We may go look at them. That's one player we're probably going to look at. There's going to be a long list of them, especially in the running back room. I've been seeing some connections to us and a Colorado State running back. I think North Texas, UNT's has, I think, 3 running backs that's getting in the portal. And I don't know if all 3 is going to end up there at Oklahoma State, but I'll tell you this. There's one thing UNT has had is dynamic running backs and wide receivers. It's kind of wild if you think about it. I think they had one year where they had like 2 running backs that had like over 1,000 yards rushing or 1,500 yards rushing. It was like absurd. They just always have them. So they're great, I guess you could say, quote unquote, JV or training ground teams to go snatch players from, because they always find some diamonds in the rough that you want to look at. And it's usually players that are close, because North Texas is technically, to me, Southern Oklahoma. That is where, we go down there and dominate on a consistent basis. We got to get back to it, but I digress. I like him as a prospect, as one to really jump in. There's another familiar name that hit the portal, and kind of want to talk about this real quick. Gavin Sawchuk just hit the portal. Now, there's been a lot of conversations back and forth, John, on this. There's been a lot of chatter of people pointing him out. There's been people saying, heck no, why would we do that? Look, I would not mind having him back as a depth piece, because when he was healthy and he was giving us those 5 straight 100-yard games, we were like, all right, this is the future. And I still think he has those capabilities. But where are you sitting on the Gavin Sawchuk train?
I think it would be interesting that he would want to come back, because he's going to have a chance to go start somewhere, I think. It may not be at a P5 level, but dude, how often do we see guys at the G6 level go have productive seasons and then find themselves in the NFL draft? Like, it's not unheard of. Certainly there's a connection to Oklahoma. DeMarco Murray recruited him. Gabe Sawchuk is still there, his brother. One more go round with the Sooners. It could be an Austin Stogner situation where, hey, come back for one more year. Let's see what happens. Compete with Xavier Robinson and Torrey Blaylock for snaps. And you're going to have an opportunity. Again, they're going to rotate running backs, some due to health, some due to production. It's just going to be the way of the world. And he'd make sense as a one-year guy as you get Jonathan Hatton and Zephan Walker up to speed in the running back rotation. So, hey, if he wants to do it, I'm cool with it. It was kind of a weird situation last spring. They brought Jayden in. Everybody expected him to be the guy. Everybody, not just us, not just Oklahoma Sooner people, national people across the country, SEC people, analysts across the country thought Jayden was going to come in here and be a significant difference maker. And that led to the Gavin Sawchuk departure.
Yeah.
There's no mincing words about it. And it failed. That's the only way to really describe it. You can't always see the makeup of a player on tape. You can't always guarantee that the guy that you're getting is going to be somebody that is really willing to grind and do the dirty things that you got to do in a football game to be productive.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. It's a big old F on that transfer portal edition. And the other part of it, losing Gavin Sawchuk to Florida State, is a part of that as well. So do they have the humility to say, hey, we messed this up? Gavin, would you come back? I don't know. Would Gavin Sawchuk have the humility to step back into that situation? I don't know. But listen, I'm not against it. I just don't know if the relationship soured because of the Jayden situation or not. Only time will tell. But he would make sense as a one-year guy for sure.
Yeah, we made a calculated risk, and unfortunately, that risk was bad. It happens. Like I would like for us to bat 1,000, but it's impossible. Nobody in life bats 1,000. You're gonna have situations where it accident. Now, you may have somebody take only one swing, and if they hit a home run, hey, great. But that's it.
Yep.
And if they get hurt and they're done for their career, they batted 1,000. So it's not like, I don't think that part of it could be counted because they no longer got a chance to swing. But I digress. That's one of the things we would need to really see if this calculated risk would make sense. But like I said, staff likes their recruits. They're usually going to go for one-year rentals, players that they can bring in, help get a boost, and then they can focus on the development of their players behind them, which is the one thing that y'all as fans, all of us as fans, should really appreciate, because that helps us to make sure that recruits understand they can play. Like, I look at other teams like, no shade to be tossed. It may come out across as shade, but not really shade. But like Miami, why would you as a quarterback recruit go there? You're probably never going to play. Every year they're grabbing 1-year quarterback rentals or couple-year rentals, and it's like, what about the kids that you brought in as recruits? Why aren't they getting the chance to play? You see this around college football. If you pay attention, certain schools always are getting a quarterback out of the portal. And at some point, you don't want to be that team. At some point, you want to be the team that has players in the chamber ready to go in and actually play. And so we don't want to be that team. We want to be the team that brings in an additional player to add a boost to a room and then groom our own players so they can go in and play. You see that very often. It's okay to have one player that comes in and rotates around because you need additional help if you're really young. That's a common thing. So, but for us, we want to make sure that we're actually leveraging our own players. So looking at that, Sawchuk coming as another 1-year rental. He was one of our recruits, so him coming back home would not, to me, be a bad thing. Just the question is, would he actually do that? Would he be willing to do that? I mean, his brother is still here, so we still got Gabe floating around, and maybe he's like, I'll go back and play, ball with my brother. Maybe, we can make something happen. So I just thought that was an interesting one. Thought it was an interesting conversation piece. Besides that, though, as far as where we really are good to go, I'm going to be honest. I don't think we have a position where we are just straight across the board. We ain't got to worry about nobody. I think we need to add at least one player, probably at all spots, even at corner. I think corner is one spot where I would like to get one more veteran to go along with those young players we have, because we always need players to rotate with. But that's also dependent on who hits the portal.
I just don't think you're going to be able to talk a cornerback into coming into Oklahoma right now, because you've got Eli Bowen, you got Cortland Guillory. Right now you still have Dede Jordan. Jacoby Johnson, we'll see what he ends up doing. You still got him. You've got a young group that you're always touting. The Malik Hawkins,
Tristan Haynes,
Tristan Haynes. You've got some young guys in the 2025 or 2026 class as well. So, or one young guy in the 2026 class.
Yeah,
it's a really good group. And really last year, when we thought they needed a guy, they said, "No, we're good, we're set." I think it would be surprising if they went and added a cornerback after the season that these guys just had, because they found a good rotation, and Cortland got better as the year went along. Eli got better as the year went along, had some really productive games. Devon Jordan got better as the year went along. So who that fourth cornerback is, that's going to be kind of up in the air. Does Devon Jordan return? That's going to be a little bit up in the air, because he might decide, hey, you know what? I could go be a starter somewhere. And that's, I think there's a reality to that. At the same time, there's something to be said for just being really good where you're at, and being a part of a scheme that's made you really good and highlighted your abilities. There's something to be said for that too. So I think if there's a position where I'm good to go, it's cornerback. Like, you don't have to add anybody if you don't want to. If you want to, you see somebody out there that makes sense, that's a young guy that you can develop, and fine, by all means. But of any position on this team, cornerback seems to be the one that I'm the most confident in going forward. Safety is another one that I feel really confident in. Some folks in the chat might say defensive line, and I get where you're coming from, because you're going to have a group that brings back Jayden Jackson, David Stone, Taylor Wine is going to start at one defensive end spot, and then you're going to have a competition between, Adepoju Adebowale and Danny Okoye and Wyatt Gilmore at that other defensive end spot. At the same time, we've seen them go into the portal for defensive end help each of the last several off seasons, and it wouldn't surprise me to see them go find a defensive tackle that can add to that rotation with David Stone, Jayden Jackson, Trent Wilson, Marcus Strong, to provide a little bit of veteran leadership as well. So to your point, saying, hey, there's not necessarily a position that they couldn't add somebody and feel good about it.
Yeah, interiors where I think they definitely will add one more. You want to have one more big boy in the middle, because you're losing both, not only Dom, but you're Grayson. Two players unfortunately ran out of eligibility, so they are gone because of that, not other reason. Nigel Smith should be ready to go ahead and step in there and take one of those roles too. But I could totally see them adding another interior guy. Marcus Strong should be ready. Trent Wilson is probably going to be a monster in those interiors. So yeah, you're going to add one more. You're going to probably add one more edge too. That's why I say, I believe that you're probably going to see at least one. You're going to see at least one from just about every position, just to not only shore up having just depth, but you may want to get one more like veteran presence. But I think Stone and Jackson, which we're already seeing the NFL guys say, here's first round potential picks for 2027. Yeah. It's like, dang, man, y'all really want our players to leave early?
Hold up.
I get it though, because if Stone and Jackson both have another good season, and you get them both healthy for majority of the year, at least, like I said, majority. I'm not going to say the entire season because, knock on wood, you will love that, but that's not something that's always realistic. If those two come in and show out, like I said, once again, yeah, they're probably going to be slated to be able to bounce early. And if they have a deep run next year, I wouldn't blame them. And that's when you're really going to have to load up. So you're probably going to be saying, hey, come in here. If these guys ball out, there's a good chance you're going to rotate a lot with them, and there's a good chance you're going to end up having a position to play next year. So, yeah, we're probably going to need to be doing that.
Yeah, if Oklahoma's shown anything on the defensive side of the ball, they're willing to rotate players and play their quote-unquote backups a lot. Their 4-man defensive tackle rotation, their 4-man defensive end rotation. They had like 4 safeties play a lot. They had 3 or 4 corners play a lot. They had 2 cheetahs play a bunch. So they have an easy sell to portal guys. Like, even if they've got guys that you can project as starters for this defense, that doesn't really mean anything. You're going to come in, you're going to get an opportunity to play if you can earn it. So the defense, I think, is in a really, really good spot. It's in a really healthy spot. You've got young guys you can develop. You've got room to add a portal spot to be in. And yeah, man, I'm excited to see what they do because we know that they're going to add some impact players. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Again, tune in to us all week as we can continue to get you ready for the transfer portal. We'll break down any breaking news that happens, whether it's portal additions or any kind of coaching changes that occur. We'll talk about it here on Locked On Sooners. So subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, for more Oklahoma Sooners and college football coverage. You can follow me at John9Williams and read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer Sooner.